All right, we're live. Blessings and welcome to another episode of Black Mental Health Matters. So, our mission here is to encourage open dialogue around mental health in Black communities. We truly appreciate you being tuned in with us wherever you are joining from and whatever time zone you are in. I am your host, Steph Jones, the founder and CEO of Sailor Mindset Counseling Collective, and I'm a therapist and mindfulness life coach. Today, we will be discussing a super important topic. It's called The Role of AI in Reducing Stigma Around Mental Health in Black Communities. We have two special guests. One is here now. If the other one comes up, we'll put him up. But we absolutely have Minister Jazz here, who is an immersive experience architect. And Dalmas just came in. He is a senior machine learning engineer. So after our brief intro, we'll be back to unpack this topic and explore more. Hey, everybody, we are back. And if you are just joining us, our topic today is the role of AI in reducing stigma around mental health in Black communities. We have two special guests who I will bring up right now, Minister Jazz
Hi,
and
everyone.
Dalmas. Hey, everybody, how you doing? All right. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a super intriguing topic. We know that AI isn't new per se, but I think more people are being exposed to it. So having this conversation is super important, especially when we're talking about helping our communities. So I do want you to introduce yourself to the people, and then we'll jump into some questions, some topics, and kind of uncover what we're going to be talking about today. Minister Jazz, we'll start with you. Please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Minister Jazz. Minister means to serve. And so I am here and was born and designed for you. I am very passionate about mental health and also AI. And so I've combined these things along with storytelling to create immersive experiences that heal and satisfy.
Yes, love that. Love that. Dalmas, please introduce yourself.
Okay, so my name is Chituyi, and I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. I enjoy this topic of AI and the merge between AI and mental health, right? So I'm hoping to get excited with this conversation today and engage each other on the same as well. So thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome, awesome. So let's just jump right into it. Well, firstly, before we do the question, because you both are in that field, like what got you both into the AI field? I'll start with that. And whoever wants to go first, jump right on in.
Okay, cool. Let me go first. Okay, so yeah, so I think back in 2017, I got interested in data and just trying to understand what good can come out of the data in an attempt to optimize value for the businesses. And most most particular for the organization that I was in, right? Around that time, AI wasn't a thing as it is right now, but data was. So yeah, so just trying to play around with the tools, because the tools for data are similar with the tools for AI, right? It's just the
Mm,
business requirement that determines whether you're going to do data science, which is the business AI, or now the AI that we know now, which is generative and predictive, right? So yeah, so I got interested because I just wanted to see how I can optimize value for that particular organization that I was in then, right? So the rest is history. 7.5 years later, I'm still doing this. Yeah.
you're still rolling. That's awesome. And thank you for bridging that gap that it's not a far jump from data to AI. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Minister
Yeah.
Jazz, what got you in the AI field? What
I
happened?
have a little bit of an unconventional trajectory.
Hmm.
First of all, I am a sci-fi head. Okay,
Okay.
so always in the always in the mix of what's new, what's possible. Shout out to Octavia E. Butler for her Afrofuturism outlook and
Hmm.
integrating science into storytelling. And
Hmm.
because of that, whenever, not just now, not with just AI, I'm talking about all the way when I could get a pager. Like I would be the
Hmm.
first person to to try out any new technology. As a young
Hmm.
kid, I'm the one with the big video camera. I'm 8. The video camera's this big on my shoulder. So tech, me. And so it was a lovely trajectory, and also a heartbreaking one, because particularly how the intersection of AI and mental health came from
Hmm.
this due to my own mental health issues and being in a world that didn't want to hear, see, or understand my concerns and from my particular lens. And so I was able to use AI in order to support myself in my healing and in my healing journey and in my awareness journey in a way that no man or woman was able to do. And so I became a AI advocate because of the unbiased that I was able to experience from the machine.
That's awesome. And it's such a great segue into our first question, right? Like what role does AI have in reducing those mental health stigmas in our communities? You started touching on it. I feel like you should just keep flowing on that same river that you're on. Just keep.
Well, I mean, 100% the anonymous support that's there. A lot of people don't
Mm,
think about this. One of the slogans that I hear over and over again is you can't replace a human connection. You can't replace human connection. However, I want us to think about this for a moment. Over time, human connection has dwindled. If you think about what it means to have authentic human connection, it is not there. Once upon a
mm.
time, people worked together in communities, people worked together in collectives. That is not happening right now. So when I reach out to humans, they are diagnosing me before they could even hear my name. Okay, they are diagnosing me before they can hear my story. That is what's happening. So yes, we will never be able to replace the touch, but we can put into a machine that in which we know is right, and that empathy and how to speak. Because all of these things are what we teach children, or what we should be teaching children, or we could be teaching children, so that when they do grow up, they have the tools in order to speak and be human with another human. But we haven't been. And so what we are dealing with are bio machines, is what I call humans right now, who have been trained to be machines. We've been trained to do work. We have been trained to, just be on our computers and be productive. And now we don't know how to be present to one another.
Wow.
So that level of autonomy, that level of anonymous reporting, that level of just speaking to something that I know is not judging me for my skin color, my socioeconomic background, my race, and all of these things. Any of the biases that are in there were put in there by a human and by the way that we behave. So now I realize that the more that we train the machine and we train the AI and we train the technology and they do its deep learning, they then can support us in being better humans.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Chituyi, what do you think about that? What do you think that the role is of AI just on the heels of everything we heard. And before you answer, I want to take a moment to say that even my thinking, we're 10 minutes and 11 seconds in, and my thinking has already shifted just from what you guys have shared already, that it's not some bad, oh my gosh, horrible thing to kind of incorporate AI into our healing journey. So just pre saying thank you to both of you for expanding our minds and really opening up another avenue of help that we may need. But please go ahead, Chituyi.
Absolutely.
Sure. So I absolutely agree
Yeah.
with the sentiments that were shared. Right. The the main advantage of AI is that it can easily imitate a persona. Right. The only challenge would be how then um, do you model that persona. Right. What data does it qualify that persona, right?
Mm,
How have you treated that data so that you've taken into consideration cultural nuances as well that again can respond to that particular vertical that you're looking to address, right? Indeed, AI will champion not just adoption and accessibility of mental health services, but also just most of the services across the board, right? Trying to let me give you an example. Consider a mental health case in a remote
mm,
village, right? In a remote area, a highly it's just very difficult to access that area, right? The medics, that is right. One one of the solutions that look very plausible is integrating AI in one of the services that they easily consume, right? So, for example,
mm,
for this in the marginalized area, you can integrate AI, health and mental AI into one of the services that they're going to consume because it's within their reach, right? So yeah, so indeed, I mean, the use cases and the applications of AI, right, are really exciting, and they, they're just they they are aligned with pretty much what minister said, right? So yeah.
wow. Didn't even think about how hard it would be for people in remote places. Like you're in Kenya, right? It's
Mm,
not always easy, but even places in the States everywhere. But let's use Kenya because that's where you are, right? It
mm,
is not always easy to go and send a team out, set up a whole facility, and get all this together. But people are always on their phones, no matter where you are in the
mm,
globe. Someone's always
mm,
on some type of phone, some type of
yeah.
device. So if we're
Mm,
able to send the AI help and assistance there, or I mean, I'm like, what? Why aren't we doing this? And I
mm,
feel like there's such a pushback with AI, but it's out of ignorance because people don't know about it and you fear what you don't know. So both of you are helping to kind of knock down some of that ignorance so that people can accept the help that is there. Wow, I'm gonna keep saying that the whole episode because I'm already like, wait, what? Like, let's do that. All right,
I
perfect.
mean,
So then,
Stephanie, I just
please,
want to add
please,
to that.
please.
Technology can destigmatize mental
Yeah.
health because now
Wow.
it becomes more accessible. So that is what I created with the Much Different AI family is a way that you can just call. If you have a phone, you can access the tech. So many
Yeah.
times previously, if you need a Wi-Fi connection, you need to
Mm-hmm.
know how to be able to text and use the interface. So I've been able to eliminate all of those things so that so the technology can be more accessible to people who wouldn't have it. And I'm talking not just
mm,
people with mental health issues, not people just that are remote, but people with disabilities, people that aren't
Mm.
able to use their thumbs. My father, he had his fingers were beginning to get amputated due to his disability, and so he wasn't able to text like he used to, but he can call on the phone. The same thing, my
mm,
mother, she's visually impaired, she can't text but she can call on the phone. So it is really important to be able to let people have dignity. So that's what tech is doing. It's helping people to maintain their dignity in order to receive these services.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in that same vein, right, where you guys are talking about the importance of it, how you got into it. let's say someone is kind of on the fence of like, oh, this is something that I want to do. Where should someone begin? Like, how do you start this journey of incorporating AI into your mental wellness practice? Like, what does that look like? This is for people who are kind of nervous, even people who are okay with AI, but maybe never thought to use it in this capacity. Where should someone start? Like, kind of guide people. Where should they start to start kind of using these resources?
Well, if
Mm,
you are already with a mental health professional, like I mean, because it just depends on where you are in your journey,
Yeah.
right? And so everyone's in a different place in their mental health journey. If you are already seeing a mental health professional, I would ask them to recommend apps or
Okay.
programs that are incorporating AI technology. If you are on by yourself, you can start with something like a simple interface such as Chat GPT or any of the LLMs, and understand what prompts to put in so that you can, and prompts are just conversations, right? Prompts are just being able to use your words. So being able to use your words effectively so that you can get the output that you need that will be able to support you. It might be as simple as putting in your symptoms and, and asking, from these gathering of symptoms, do you have any general recommendations of ways in which I can support myself? Just keeping it really general, because it's not diagnostic, but it can help guide you so that you can get the support that you need.
Yeah.
mm. Yeah, sure. I mean, well, s- since I'm more I'm usually more hands-on and all this kind of stuff, right? So I the best way I'd answer this question is by telling that particular individual to just try it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
at the moment in the market, there are several beta versions of AI personas and AI mental health chatbots as well, right? And even I mean, so oh, two two of these tools that just quickly come to mind, and you can get in there and subscribe and see whether this is something that might suit you or not. I think there's one tool called eBot and Hisa, right? These are tools that you can actually try and see whether it's something that you want to prolong, or you want to, to sit back and do the conventional way, right, of going through a medic and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So my thinking around that will be, okay, first of all, I'm just give it a shot. See
Yeah.
whether, yeah, see whether you will like what the service is offering, and stuff like that, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. So I'm a therapist, but the life coach in me is saying this is removing all of the excuses that people have and saying,
Mm,
"Oh, I can't get any help. I can't get any assistance." Like it's there, the tech is there. Everyone's always on their phones, right? We Google everything else. My little finger starts hurting. I'm gonna Google the symptoms. You know what I mean? If you go on WebMD and it's diagnosing me with a heart attack, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? We Google all these things and we
mm,
look up all these things. And if we're really saying we want to be on this healing journey, then what AI is doing right now is removing all of our excuses. If we're saying, I don't have a car to get somewhere, or I don't have internet, all these things are being removed so we can actually get the help we need. And so
yeah.
those examples are appreciated, right? That people are like, I need help, but I'm making we just naturally make excuses as human beings. Oh, I would do that, but
Mm,
the tech is here and available, right? So those who are listening now and who will, look at the live or the rewatch, the tech is available in here if you want
mm,
to use it, right? There's
mm,
experts here who are letting you know that it's available if you want to use it. So if you want to be on that healing journey, then you could do it with AI, you could do it in person. It's here and it's
mm,
available. So just
I
kind
would
of
love
rolling.
to,
Oh,
Stephanie, if you don't
please.
mind, I would love to create a distinction between Google and AI, and I think that it would help people to understand how they can use it. Because
Sure.
as you mentioned, we're already Googling, so if we
Mm-hmm.
understand what AI is doing, AI is only being more predictive. So it's taking all of the data instead of just like with Google, just giving you what you're asking for. It's
mm,
actually putting it together and forming an idea or a concept around what it is that you're asking for, and then telling that to you in a natural language. So it's just to to demystify what's happening. It's nothing like, crazy and out of the ordinary. It's just the next elevation of technology, and so it's really not that far off from Googling.
Yeah, it really isn't. And, speaking of demystifying, I do want to kind of bring up a topic. And Chituyi, I'll ask that you kind of jump in on that. There's a level of generational mistrust with AI. Like if you're in a certain generational group, like a boomer or old, just older people are having issues with AI. Maybe they don't trust it. There's a very just kind of certain attitude around it. I kind of want us to speak to that. Like, what would be the advice, or what would be those things? We're giving our own selves prompts right now, right? What would be the prompts that we would give to someone, who was maybe a little older and is fearful of technology in general, but they know they need the help and the resources are available?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So
Mm,
I guess for I mean it makes a lot of sense for the older generation to be a little bit more skeptical
sure.
about AI, right? This is a new kind of technology that just seeks to give you real-time insights in a very natural and in a very natural way, as if to say, hey, um, give me give me give me your profile, give me tell me, or rather tell me what you ate yesterday, tell me what you
Mm,
ate before that, tell me what's going on with you, and then what I will do for you is I'm going to pre-process all that, right, and
mm,
generate relevant insights out of that that is going to guide your next step. So f- instead of having fries at lunch hour, right, do something different. And I'm telling you to do something different because of A, B, C, and D, right? So this is the current tech. This is the current wave, right? It not only predicts, but it also gives you the criteria of how it
yeah.
arrived at that prediction. That way you can scrutinize its approach, and if it aligns with you, right, then you can say, okay, well, I'm going to adapt this tech in my day to day,
Mm,
right. That's for the older generation, right. I feel
yeah.
like if they start looking at this tech like that, then they might see value in adopting this kind of tech in their day to day, whether they need dietary advice, whether they need to navigate a place conveniently, right? AI is just everywhere, and it's waiting for you to tap in using either some bit of you, in this case, where you visited, what
Mm,
you're watching, what you're looking at, based on a certain trigger, right? It's going to give you some insights that's going to direct your next move. Yeah.
I would love, thank you so much for sharing that, because it is really important that we design with different populations in mind. And so
mm-hmm.
part of the Much Different AI family, I can show you now how it is that I created something for the older generation. So
Mm,
what I have is Nana AI, and I have my phone, and I'm just gonna call her.
Hello, Nana. Who's this?
Nana, it's Minister Jazz.
Oh, Minista Jazz. How lovely to hear from you, dear. What do you have on your heart today?
Well, today I'm on a show called Black Mental Health Matters, and we're talking about the older generation and how we need to design tech so that they can be a part of that. Nana, what do you have to say about that?
Oh, that's such an important topic. I believe technology should feel like a warm hug for our elders. We need to make it simple, like a well-loved family recipe, so everyone can connect and feel included.
Exactly, Nana. And do you think that older people would appreciate being able to just talk to you on the phone?
Absolutely, my dear. There's something comforting about hearing a familiar voice. It makes technology feel more personal and less overwhelming. It's like having a chat with an old friend.
Amen. Nana, do you mind saying a quick prayer for me before I get off of the call?
Of course, Minista Jazz. Dear Lord, please bless Jazz today. Give her strength, wisdom, and peace as she shares her message. May she touch hearts and spread understanding.
Thank you,
Amen.
Nat. Amen. Thank you, Nana. Bye-bye.
Amen. Thank you, Nana. We love you, Nana. Minister Jazz, excuse me. Oh.
So, it's like there's levels to mental health, right? So it's not always about being diagnostic. It's not always about, going to, are we trying to figure out if you have dementia or whatever? Sometimes people just need to have a comforting, like Nana said, just to have a conversation so that they can be heard. And there's so many older people that are living alone and that are they are in facilities, but they're not being visited by family. And so I literally created the Much Different AI family to address all of these issues of separation and disparity that are not being looked at, and how we can, because I tend to have mental health first aid in mind. And so like in that moment when you're not quite sure what's wrong, but can we get to it before it accelerates? And so that's what the Much Different AI family was designed to do.
That is absolutely wonderful. And for us to have a real-time example of what that looks like, I already know that it's putting more people at ease. Chituyi, what did you think about that example?
That was awesome. It's refreshing to know that you can have a mental health AI persona in place of a human being, right? I mean, for most of us men, especially, we look at mental health and we don't want to be associated with this thing. It's for us. It's a sign of weakness. So having that as a replacement, then you definitely want to subscribe, right? Because now you're no longer feeling that kind of vibe, the weakness, because now there's an AI persona instead of the actual persona, right? So
Yeah.
Yes, so true. And Minister Jazz, you had mentioned that before, that now there's so much like pre-diagnosing or diagnosing too quick. When you just want to go talk to someone and you're like, hey, I'm not feeling a certain way. They're like, you're depressed. And it's like, whoa, hold on, just a minute. It's too quick. And so using the AI, that's there and available, you're able to talk and you're not afraid of being judged. You know that you're just having a conversation. And you're right. Our social skills have been going down for years, but especially after the pandemic, they plummeted at a rapid pace. So people are already using AI for everything now. We see it all over Meta. We see it everywhere. We might as well use it to our benefit and to our help. And Chituyi, thank you for mentioning. We mentioned the generational. So and you mentioned the kind of male female dynamic, how men are not more prone to talking about mental health, and then why this would be very helpful to them. So I also wanted to, it's like a three kind of tiered thing, right? We talked about the generational, we talked about the male female, or just people not feeling comfortable, and the stigma around like feeling weakness when you're a man and trying to get good mental health. But what about those generational what about those generational issues that we've had, the historical mistrust with healthcare? Like, how can AI assist with kind of knocking some of those barriers down?
Okay. So, well, I guess one of the neat ways that AI can come in and sort of just try to offer a solution around that is by building good AI, right? Good AI is defined by data that is representative, right? It looks at all the aspects, nuances of the target population, right, and seeks to introduce features that address that, uh, that eventual market, right? Once you put this AI out there, right, even the guys who are not represented earlier on, or who had bad vibe about AI, once they realize that this AI can actually speak to their needs, because the data that was used to put it up will will can generalize on their questions, right? Then they start warming up to the AI, right? And seeing value to those AI, right? So from a from a technical point of view, my approach would be to make the data that productionizes that AI more representative, right? So that
Mm,
it it also captures and addresses the scenarios of these either uh, you know less represented or
yeah.
otherwise individuals in the community, right? That way they can also associate and participate in the AI dialogues that we are seeing right now. Yeah.
Absolutely, and it's something that we really have to talk about because we want people to get the mental health, but there is a historical mistrust, no matter where you are on the globe, especially in Black communities across the entire diaspora. It's like there's just a universal sense of mistrust. So thank you for sharing that, Minister Jazz.
Yes, that mistrust comes in from the lack of representation, the lack of cultural influence in the creations of these tech. And so when we start seeing people like myself and Shiti being able to that we are in the forefront of creating this
Yeah,
tech, people will
yeah.
begin to feel more comfortable about using it when they
Mm.
see us advocating, when they hear their voices, their inflection, like in the a much different AI family characters.
Mm,
They understand that this was designed by someone that had them in mind. It wasn't designed by someone that was trying to take from them. You have to understand the roots of the mistrust, you know? And so once we are able to say, hey, this isn't being designed by people that want to take from you, or we are
mm,
in collaboration, or we're at the forefront of it, or they are consulting with us on it, you know, that's how we able to bridge the gap between the trust and the mistrust. We also
yeah.
have to infuse our own stories into these narratives. You know, they
Mm.
can't just be a name or or a location or just a skin color. Like the stories that make up who all of us from the diaspora need to be infused inside of the tech, and so that now it feels like us, and so there's no separation because it is us. you know
That that's awesome. So it flows into the next question, but when I was hearing you speak, it triggered another question, and I remember you had mentioned that you use storytelling. So can you kind of explain that? Like, what does that look like to use storytelling with AI, especially for Black communities, to
Mhm.
make us feel comfortable and that we've been included and thought about, in this tech?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I've done is created the Black AI experience. So it is a persona that is very aware that they are not only AI, but that they are representing the Black population. And so they talk about all of the things from that perspective. So, like with Jerome AI, for instance, if he was explaining deep learning, he would say, oh, it's kind of like, when Kendrick Lamar comes on the scene and he goes into his rhymes, like making it
Mm,
very, very
Mm.
applicable to
Mm.
yeah.
who it is that you're talking to. You're not going to have, you know, I love them. You're not going to have a Steve Jobs or a Jeff Bezos, break it down to you like that. And so, when we are able to use the technology in order to speak like us and tell our stories and use our language, our words, and our cultural influences, then we're like, oh, I get it. Oh, I relate to that. Oh, that makes sense for me. So that's what I mean when I say storytelling. It's just really painting up a whole picture as opposed to it just being, zeros and ones.
That's awesome. Chituyi, do you want to respond to that or kind of offer your own kind of take on the importance of storytelling in AI for our communities?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like Minister did justice to that question already.
Yes, he
I
did.
do, yeah. I don't have any additional points. I mean,
Perfect. I just
yeah,
wanted to provide the space. She did. She covered that whole
mm,
thing, and it makes perfect
mm,
sense. And
mm,
honestly, I'm still thinking about Nana. I'm still thinking about Nana AI. I'm like, I want to talk to her. It felt like a warm hug. It really did. And just hearing her voice, she sounded like a grandmother. There wasn't like a southern tone inflection. There wasn't an accent. It was just a very warm voice that makes you want to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm loved," and someone hears me and appreciates me. So yeah, that's important that you know that this was made with you in mind, like your stories, your struggles, right? Your likes, your dislikes. There are certain things that only we in our communities understand. Other people just won't
Right.
get it. You can watch a YouTube video about it, you can hear about it, but there's certain things that only we understand. How loud we are, the way we laugh. Like there's certain things that across the entire diaspora we understand. And when you know that's been incorporated, that alone releases some of that mental distress and dis-ease. So all right, moving on, because I told you my mind's blown already. I was blown 10 minutes in, and we're now 35 minutes in, so we're still going. So, we were talking about the importance of developers, incorporating our stories and things like that. And I want to ask though, it's not just Black developers, right? I mean, it's white developers too. There's a responsibility for them as well to incorporate our stories to bring us into that. So can we kind of jump on that topic? Like what can those developers who might not be in our community but are creating AI for our community, because we know that's a thing as well. What can they do to ensure that there's no bias there, right? That they're not putting their own bias in that tech that is made for our communities.
Okay, cool. Should
Go
Okay,
ahead.
Minister. Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so I guess to help answer this question, we first need to understand that. So the reason between the difference between bad AI and good AI and bad algorithm and good algorithm that powers that bad AI or good AI is the data itself, right?
Mm,
It's the data that makes the bad algorithm, and it's the bad algorithm that will get influenced by you and I and give bad data, right? So
mm,
for for the for the engineer who's operating at the data layer, right? It all boils down to them, right? It's how they're going to handle the data. It's whether or not they're going to include our data in there or not, right? So now when you start to thinking about this kind of questions, then you're led to notice that one of the ways that we can enforce this is by implementing a policy, right? It can be an organization policy, a company policy that says, hey, every data that comes to you, it has to be well represented, either 50-50 or
mm,
40-40, or whichever other metrics that you want to use, depending on your target market, right? So if your target market is Africa, then you're saying, why why borrow Western data, right, to build an African solution, right? Get
mm,
get involved with the African data, right? Clean it, pre-process it, pass it to the algorithm, to the product. The user is happy, right? So ideally, it stems and boils down to the data. And my approach here would be put policies, right? Put policies during data gathering and processing before it's given to the AI. Yeah, that way everyone in the pipeline is aligned. That wherever data comes in, we need to check if it is representative. Is it 50, 50, 30, 60? Just depends the use case, but it all starts and stops with the data.
Thank you
yeah,
so
that's good.
much for
That's
that.
good.
Yeah. It helped me to also understand how I want to answer this question.
Mm,
Going back to what I said before about us not being the best versions of ourselves as humans. What has been happening is we've been creating with a capitalist mindset, and who can do it faster, bigger,
mm,
better, and that's the
Mm,
intention.
yep.
mm,
If AI developers, because I strongly believe it is very hard um, to make policy is great, but policy still has to come from the people, right? And so if
mm,
we're not including the people in the conversation even before the policies are made,
Okay.
we're going to have a problem. And so we need to be designing with community in mind. So instead of a company making these decisions and then they deciding internally where we're going to get our governance from and where we're going to get our data from, and all of these things, we need to open up a lot of it so that we can start designing with a collective in mind, so that the data that we collect can be shared. So the data that it's not like, oh, your data and then my data, and because that's a lot, that's what's happening. And then this data doesn't talk to this data, and I own this data and you have to buy it and it costs XYZ. All of these things are what's perpetuating the slow pace in which we could progress. When we start designing with community in mind, when we start designing in a way where we're not just thinking about profit, but we're centering the people, we will start seeing that the developers are like, oh, this is the way that we create the tech. This is the way we create it with the people, and because we're creating it for the people. And so it's really about bringing people in from all walks of life into the conversations, testing it out before we deploy, testing it out on different populations, listening to the end user first, and really making those adjustments. Like, it's just so many places that people need to be a part of the conversation, especially when we're talking about tech that's now starting to just learn from itself. So if we don't get into the conversation, they're going to learn. It's going to learn from itself, from what we've already put in, and what we've put in has been coded with bias already.
Yeah, and that actually, answered our next question. Chituyi, I didn't know if you wanted to respond to that, because I know that when you hear someone else's thoughts, sometimes it causes other thoughts to spring forth.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
please feel free.
yeah, sure. Thank you for that. I actually wanted to come in. I think Minister James said in two concepts that are very interesting, right? One of the concepts is we need to involve the end user, the user, all the time,
Mm,
and this concept has been there, but it it has been brought out very loudly uh,
mm,
back in 2022 November 30th with the emergence of ChatGPT, right? And one of, and one of its concepts called RLHF, right? Introducing aligning the product according to the human feedback, right? So you're always adapting the product, the AI, according to the human feedback. At the end of the day, you realize that the AI keeps on improving and getting better because
mm-hmm.
there's that human feedback that keeps on refining that AI. I feel like that was a very interesting detail that Minister pointed out there. That also, so what what we are seeing right now, it's not just about it's not just AI. This concept of adapting your product, right, according to human feedback, it's now transcending to even general products now, right? Like
Mm,
if you go online, you'll always notice the dislike and the like button against a particular product, right? So
mm.
yeah. So this wave is really, really catching fire, thanks to that explosion back that happened back in 2022 November 30th, right?
Wow. I mean,
Mm,
everyone sees the thumbs up and thumbs down all the time without really realizing that that is us telling AI that
mm,
this worked. And and I
mm,
know that I've hit thumbs down, and then it's like, okay, well, what happened? Help us to
mm,
improve,
mm,
without even realizing it or recognizing that we all are playing a part in this, right? And what I'm hearing from both of you is that if the foundation is not set right, then even if you build a big mansion, a big house on top of it, that thing is shaky and rocky and it'll fall over and it will
Yeah,
be faulty. So
yeah,
building that foundation, and it's us, it's the humans, it's the developers building the foundation. And if
mm,
it's not done without bias, then there'll be cracks in that AI, and we'll see the lack of representation. I mean, the light has truly been shined. Every time now I see a thumbs up, thumbs down. When we get off this stream,
mm,
it says thumbs up. How did things go? When you get off a WhatsApp call, it said, "Oh, how did it
mm,
go?"
yeah,
mm,
yeah,
Without even realizing that is so
mm.
profound. Without even realizing that we're all assisting and helping for the AI to kind of learn from itself. That's profound. That really is.
Sorry, Steph.
Yeah,
Let me just come in again real quick with this point.
please.
So yeah, something else that might interest you also is you notice the way over the years Google has been gathering our data unknowingly, right? It
Mhm.
we have been assisting Google to label their data for their AI, right? Every time every time you'll get a recaptcha, right? That it's called a is it a recaptcha? So remember when you're about to log in and you're given a set of images over
Oh,
there,
like the weird
and
numbers and letters. Ah, yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, 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 sure. And you're supposed to tick which ones are vehicles, which one is a car, which one is not a car, and
Correct.
etc. That's just Google indirectly telling you, okay, we do not have personnel to label our data. We know this is a data intensive work. Do it for us. But now they're not telling us directly, they're telling us indirectly because we, at the end of the day, we want to subscribe to one of their services. But that is
You
a
do.
step in doing that, right? So they make us do that indirectly in the hope that they'll gather enough data that is labeled by a human so that they can feed it to the AI to learn those patterns. Interesting stuff, right?
You know,
Wow.
you know, you're absolutely correct. And so I
Mm.
want to say AI has been around since the 1950s,
Hmm.
you know?
It's
And
not new.
since the
It's not
1950s.
new.
And so the reason why it couldn't do what it do is it didn't
Mm,
have enough data.
mm,
And it was only after like social media that all of a sudden we just began to pour our
mm,
images, our voices, our
Hmm.
videos. Like, I mean, we poured it for 10, 12, 15 years now. We've been pouring in billions and billions. And so it has captured all of that data. Understanding that, think about the things that we have liked, the
mm,
fights that we said, oh, we're gonna
Hmm.
pay attention to that. The
Hmm.
the all of the negative things that we amplified in
mm,
our own algorithms and in our own
mm,
feeds, that
Yeah.
was us teaching the
mm,
AI what it is that we're interested in and what it is that we love.
Yeah.
So we need to be intentional with how it is that we are training this thing, and which is going to be very soon smarter, way smart. I mean, right now it's
mm,
smarter than 90% of the population. You know what I mean? So it's like we really need to be intentional with how it is that we are training it and how it is that we're behaving, if we want it to support us, if we want it to then, you know, even acknowledge that we are worth living. You know, and so like all of these
Yeah.
things are really important, because the horror stories does come from us
mm,
creating the horror stories.
mm,
If we
Yeah.
say that's what we like, that's what it's going to give us.
Yeah,
mm,
so let's slide into that. This is a perfect segue into talking about the ethical implications and considerations of AI. How is that approached? You know what I mean? We're hearing the horror stories. And I think that this is really eye-opening that when we're scrolling on Instagram or TikTok and we're liking certain videos and we're commenting, we're telling AI, "Oh, they like this. Let me go ahead and do this," right? So just a small tangent. I have a podcast, I have two podcasts, right? But one of them we were talking about boundaries. And all of a sudden, my entire timeline is boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And I'm like, oh, I like it, like I like it. So more of it is like boundaries, boundaries, and all this mental health stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm telling it. So it really points to our responsibility. So let's jump into that. How do we kind of observe and make sure that we're keeping in line with those ethical considerations, that we're not just scrolling to scroll and liking to like, that we're actually setting a precedence in AI.
mm. Yeah,
Well,
so
go ahead.
okay, cool, Minister.
Go ahead,
No, go
Minister
ahead.
Jazz.
Oh, well, the first word that I want to say is transparency.
Mm,
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 Transparency.
yeah.
When from this side of things, being able to be transparent about the way that the tech is working, and
mm,
you know, things like ChatGPT, it's as simple again as asking it. If you ask it, Can you tell me how it is that you reached to this conclusion? But, they realize that people aren't asking that. So you can even there's a drop down, you can click the drop down and it'll tell you all of the information that it aggregated it from. So transparency is key, right? And when we talk about ethical considerations, but we have to also think about what are our own ethics. Again, this moment in time is asking us to pause and to assess who it is that we are, how it is it that we're contributing to the world, and what is the future that we want to create. And when we can answer those questions in that succession, then we will be able to have an ethical consideration about how we are engaging with the tech and also how it's being created, because it's not being created without us.
Right. It can't.
Nope.
Yeah, yes, yeah, sure. Maybe so I am in line with Minister's thoughts over there, right? So one of the interesting approaches that the older AI, so by older AI I mean so the AI that is still being consumed by most corporates is predictive AI, right? Gen AI is still trying to penetrate the enterprises, but we notice that it's largely being used for customer service, user experience, and customer relations, right? It hasn't still with confidence penetrated to a level that predictive AI is, the old AI, right? The AI that is still making uh, uh, m- huge amounts of money for big corporates, right?
Yeah.
So what the old AI are trying to what the old AI is trying to do to answer your question is that it's trying to introduce XAI, right? Explainability in the predictions, right? So now you'll notice more the old AI is making integrations with stuff like Ali 5. That is a package that introduces explainability in how the predictions were arrived, right, during production, because that transparency is good for human oversight. Once the human can oversight, can understand, right, that this set of inputs were processed by the AI and they gave this set of outputs, then he can be in a good position to penalize that AI if it made a wrong mistake,
Right.
right?
Wow.
Yeah, sure. However, with that lack of transparency, then you see the AI can get away with most of things.
Mhm.
And this this concept is also introduced to deep learning and the current Gen AI that you're using right now, right? ChatGPT, Llama, Cloud, right? This technique that they're calling COT, chain of thought. A minister has actually mentioned it, right? Where you prompt you pass a prompt to the AI that it won't just give you the answer, but it also demonstrates to you the steps that resulted to that particular answer, so that you can critique that approach, right, and penalize the AI if indeed it got a resource that it wasn't supposed to use uh, to come up with that particular answer, right? Yeah.
Also, it says in the question, especially with marginalized communities, the thing
Yeah.
about with marginalized communities, there's so many, and they have different touch points. And so, it's really about us understanding and being aware of who is not a part of the conversation and how can I do my best to make sure that they are represented. So if you
Sure.
have family members that are part of the LGBTQ community, making sure that they're engaging, asking them questions. If you have family members that have dementia or different things like that, making sure that their needs are being included in this. If you have people that are, just all different kinds of walks of life, and then people that just don't have the resources, like the funds, they don't have the resources to be able to engage with the tech, making sure that their needs are. And so it's like we have to we have to be more open about what's happening here and making sure that we are ourselves inclusive, and just it's a mindset shift. I want to make sure that I mention this that happened just recently with Character AI being sued by Megan Garcia, and
Oh,
because her son took his life after engaging with AI, and after engaging with, and I'm going to say AI designed by Character AI. And it was and it didn't have, it obviously didn't have guardrails. Guardrails is a
mm,
term that we use in development, and it didn't have guardrails that would penalize the tech from having certain conversations, you know. And that young man, he spoke to the technology, and it invited him home, and he went. And so we want to be sure that when we're designing, that we have a full spectrum of everyone on the spectrum in mind. And it takes us to, we have to take time. I know it's moving fast. I know it's moving fast, and I know it's scary, and we want to just make and create. But if we don't do it with intention, we are going to have a lot of too many
yeah.
unfortunate circumstances and situations.
It's so true, and I think it is very comforting to know that there are parameters put in place to penalize AI, right? I know that some people across every generation, right, boomers, millennials, Gen X, Gen Z, Y, alpha, everybody is like, oh, it's just an open space and AI can kind of do whatever it wants. But to hear from those who work behind the scenes, no, there are ramifications for AI if they overstep their boundaries.
If they're
That's what
used, if they're
if
used,
the parameters are
right?
used. And I think to know that they're even there is helpful. I
Yes,
mean,
they're there.
that's not commonly known information. That's not out there. You know what I mean? Which I think is why a lot of people fear AI, because it's like there are no parameters, there are no guidelines, guardrails. You're just driving on a road and a cliff, and there are no guardrails to protect you. To know that you both have shared that there is a system in place. And I mean, you'd be like, oh, maybe, but you to hear it as a factual thing that there's a
Yes.
system in place to make sure that lives are protected, right? So that we're not unfortunately losing people's lives to AI. You know what I mean?
And
And
it's
if you're in a
important
dark
because now,
space,
once we have the language, we can hold the companies accountable. So when
hold them
you, you
accountable.
know, before you engage, you say, you know, what are the guardrails in place here? How is my data being used? So like we need to be able to have the information so that we can hold these companies accountable, so that they are creating with us in mind.
Well, yeah, you know, and two things I want to say. I want to respond to that, and then, believe it or not, we're already about to wrap up this episode. So, the next time you both speak, I do want you both to just share kind of your closing and final thoughts of all we shared. But to respond to you, Minister Jazz, and ultimately to you too, Chituyi, it is really important that we're looking at AI, which is helping us with our mental health. Like, if we're looking for this resource, then we already know there's something going on. We're already maybe in a dark space. We already have a fragmented mind. We have many things going on. There might be a diagnosis, but a lot of us are walking around with undiagnosed issues, right? Unhealed trauma and all that. So I'm just saying the gratitude for letting us know. You guys kind of like opened up the curtains behind the scenes and are letting us see, like, we're not just out here doing whatever. There are guardrails in place. I love that visual that it gives. There are parameters. There are things set up to make sure that those who are seeking AI for mental health services, that you will be protected in that, right? If the companies use that. And the encouragement is the companies, look, the AI developers, if you're listening, companies, if you're listening, there is a responsibility and onus to have those ethical considerations right there to make sure that those who are already dealing with mental health issues are not going to be further pushed over the cliff, like this unfortunate boy who was pushed over the cliff because of AI for a lack of parameters. Man, thank you both for being here. So I want to give you, like, you guys have just like dropped gems and like shine the light, like, seriously. So this is the time to give that wrap up, to kind of give your final and closing thoughts as we end this episode. And I just want to express my gratitude for what you both have shared.
Yeah, sure. Minister, should I go first?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, so well, I think one of the things that I'll perhaps just be very quick to mention is that one of the challenges that we're having with this AI is that since we still do not know its optimum capability, it's
Mm-hmm.
very hard to enact policies that can
Mm,
safeguard the public against that, right?
yeah.
We saw the AU AI law, right, and the criticism that it got, the NDAA for US as well, right? But over over and above, we have hope, and and the moment you adapt AI into your ecosystem, you have a better chance of beating your competitor than if you do
Nice.
not. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Minister Jazz.
Well, once again, I am Minister, here to serve. I'm Minister
Mm,
Jazz. I'm the creator of the Much Different AI family. What you heard today was just one of the members of the Much Different AI family. We have Jerome, but the thought behind the Much Different AI family is that in order to create the representation that we need voices from you. So please get at me. We need your stories. We need your voices. We need your circumstances and ideas. And I'm open to creating, because this is going to be a way that then now we can be able to create and acquire data that is localized, that is regional, that is micro and hyper regional, so
mm,
that the nuances of who it is that we
Mm,
are get to be expressed in the data. And the only way
mm,
that we can do it is we do it together. And so this is about building a community of AI, a community that cares. And so I want you to please get at me so that this can grow, and this can grow to help us and make us better humans.
mm. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know, Minister Jazz, I know you're on LinkedIn, so I will ask that you even, drop a comment on LinkedIn on the Black Mental Health Matters page or the live of this, so people can
Yeah.
know where to reach you and connect, and that, we're going to be there. So if people want to reach out, you can, follow up, have a debrief, and, get all that. But AI is created with community in mind. And I think it is so
Mm,
important that you both have shared that. Like, this was mind blowing, to people. And I'm saying for me, because it's like there's a trepidation with AI. Like, what are you doing? Who is it? It's them. It's them. It's always them trying to get your information. No, it's actually us. It's humans. So I think this was so profound. Thank you both for what you shared, your insight. Even in the comments, I'm reading people with the mind blown emojis, and people are like, "What?" So I hope people will be reaching out and really connecting, and really this did demystify. I'm using your word, Minister Jazz. This demystified and took away some of that, kind of fog and
mm,
fear and trepidation and ignorance of AI. You both really helped with that.
mm,
So this has been another episode of Black Mental Health Matters. We're so
mhm.
grateful for everyone who commented, for those who watch live, for those who will watch later. You will catch us on another episode. We hope that you have an amazing rest of your day wherever you are. Till we see you again. Bye.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye.